fourth Sunday of Advent, and we are in the final home stretch of our preparation for the great and beautiful feast, the solemnity of the Nativity of the Lord, Christmas Day. And as we enter this home stretch, there is a sense of urgency that the Church gives to us today, in the sense that we are reminded in a profound way to continue to prepare our hearts and minds for the coming of Christ on Christmas. It's very easy, I think, for us to kind of check out of something that we're doing, check out in the sense of turn off, so to speak, check out of something that we're doing if we are kind of anticipating or excited for something that's to come after. Now, we should be excited for Christmas, we should be looking forward to Christmas, but not at the expense of right now, because, as is often said, God is in the present moment with us. The past is done, for good or for ill, the past is done. The future is in God's hands. Christmas, therefore, is in God's hands in the future. Where do we encounter God? In this moment. God is in our midst in the present moment. And we, in this time of Advent, this final week of Advent, are called to continue to reflect and to prepare our hearts and minds for this great solemnity, this great coming of Christ on Christmas. And we are given a beautiful final preparation this Sunday for the coming of Christ. We hear a gospel that we are all familiar with, a gospel that is quite beautiful and striking at the same time, and very familiar, one that we probably know what it is within the first couple of words of hearing it proclaimed. The Annunciation, the coming of Gabriel to Mary to tell her that she will be the mother of the Messiah. Now, this gospel, and specifically Mary's reaction to Gabriel, is a great help for us as we, in this moment, are preparing to receive Christ in ourselves on Christmas. Because this gospel is contrasted quite profoundly to a gospel that occurs right before it. And it's actually the gospel from yesterday morning's Mass on Saturday. It is the story of Zechariah, who is Mary's cousin's husband, right? Her cousin Elizabeth and her husband Zechariah. That Gabriel, before this, appears to him 6 months beforehand and tells him that he and his wife will have a child in unlikely circumstances. That they will have a child even though that both of them are beyond childbearing years. We don't know how old Elizabeth was when she had John the Baptist, but clearly she was, post-menopausal. She was not in a state where she would normally be having a child. But what's quite remarkable is that Gabriel's message to both Zechariah and to Mary are very similar, but the reactions of Zechariah and Mary are so different, and that Mary is the model for us to continue these final days of Advent with, and Zechariah is one who unfortunately makes a mistake, but with great reflection and remorse, quite fully makes up for that mistake. Because if you recall in that other gospel account, Gabriel, the angel, says to him, you and your wife will have a son, and you will name him John. And he basically tells him he will be the forerunner of the Messiah. But if you recall, what is Zechariah's reaction? He says, but my wife and I are too old for this to happen. That's how he reacts. It's a disbelief of the miraculous. It's a disbelief in the power of God. God can't do that, angel. What are you talking about? And the angel says to him, because you did not believe my words, you will not be able to speak until these events have taken place. So he's punished for his lack of faith and his arrogance into the angel, and that he finally is able to speak later when John is named the son. So we see this story, and then we contrast it to today's gospel, the angel Gabriel coming to Mary, a very similar message, that he's bringing to Mary an equally naturally impossible story. Something that on a natural level is impossible. A woman who is beyond childbearing years, she's going to have a baby. Naturally speaking, that is impossible. And we see in today's gospel another, on a natural level, I emphasize on a natural level, impossible story. A virgin who has been and is desiring to continue history, Old Testament through New, nothing is impossible for God. And God brings about the great miracle of the conception of John the Baptist in the womb of Elizabeth. And even more profoundly remarkable and miraculous is the miracle of today, that God himself will become incarnate in the womb of a virgin. What a remarkable thing to reflect on. And again, Mary's reaction is so different than Zechariah. What does Mary say? She says, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word." She doesn't fully grasp yet how this is going to unfold, but she accepts it with faith because she knows and loves God. And she knows that God will unfold in her his plan, that God will unfold in her something remarkable, something miraculous, something beautiful. And that disposition of Mary, this humble acceptance of God's will, God's grace, this loving, tender acceptance of God's will, is how we are called to receive Christ on Christmas. Mary is such a remarkable model for us in so many ways. She is the model disciple, as we know. But in particular and uniquely for Christmas, she is the model par excellence for us to live Christmas as God desires us to live it. To receive Jesus with the same humility that she received him. To receive Jesus with the same tenderness that she received him. To receive Jesus with the same trust that she received him. Obviously, we're not receiving him in the same way that she did, but in no less a remarkable way does God desire to be born within us this Christmas and each and every day of our lives. God yearns for intimacy with his people. God yearns for communion with his people. But for us to receive him in such a way, we have to meet him halfway. We can't receive him with arms that are crossed. We can't receive him while clinging to our sins. We can't receive him while clinging to our egos, our arrogance, our own agendas. We have to let go of these things so that we have open hands to receive and hold the newborn King. So for us this day, as we enter this final stretch before Christmas, we are called by the church to let go of those things that are not of God, to let go of those things that hold us down, that keep us away from God, and so that we have the freedom to receive and to love and to cherish Christ, who was born in the humble, loving womb of the Virgin Mother, and who desires to become intimately united in our lives with the same intimacy, with the same love, with the same zeal that he came into the life of Mary. May we have the courage to allow him into our lives today, so that on Christmas Day we may hold him in our hearts, that we may receive him and cherish him and rejoice in him with the same joy and with the same love of the first Christmas Day.